Good afternoon and welcome to Common Ground, an inside look at the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. I'm your host, Steve Tompkins, Chief of External Affairs. Now, you know, one of the big things that I personally and the department as an entity is huge on is opportunities. Opportunities for all, but particularly opportunities for youth. And to that end, today we have an extraordinary young man on who works with INROADS in New England. And INROADS is an entity, it's an agency that places kids that are in college in some of the best companies, in some of the Fortune 500 companies for internships with an eye towards them working, I believe, consecutive summers or consecutive years with these companies, and at the end, hopefully being employed by those companies. And that has happened with some frequency. And so Jamoul, Celey, the manager of New England's chapter or office of INROADS is here. He's going to talk to us about that. He's going to tell you how you can get involved with that. And so, you know, if you got to go grab that popcorn, grab it now, but get back because you're not going to want to miss this. Oh, man. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. All right, why don't we start with INROADS? What is INROADS all about?
Well, really, it's about opportunity and access. It's a nonprofit organization nationwide with 2 international offices in Canada and in Mexico. And it's really about providing professional development, personal and academic development for young people from all walks of life. Those 3 components are facilitated by the internship process that we are sponsored by our numerous companies. We have about 230 corporate sponsors right now that provide us opportunities for interns. So we affect young people's lives on college campuses through those 3 points by the internship process. And it's just a great organization to be involved with, especially when we look at helping young people make the transition from college to the workplace.
Let me ask you a 2-part question. First part of it is, how do you actually find these kids? When you say college kids, do you go to their campuses? Do they come to you? Is it some combination thereof? How do the kids actually get connected to INROADS?
Well, it is a combination of a lot of different things, but the most typical way is that we're on campus. We have partnerships with the schools, just like we have partnerships with the corporate sponsors that these young people work for. So we're on campus, we're talking to the different student organizations, career services, and you know, I've even myself personally gone to department heads and talked to individual professors, really just to talk about the opportunities. Because as a faculty or staff member or administrator at a school, I mean, one of the things that you want to say is that, hey, we're giving you an education, but we're also going to give you a line of access to that light at the end of the tunnel, which is a job or a career usually.
And so once you identify these kids,
yes,
tell me about the qualifications. Do they have to have a certain grade point average? Do they have to be involved with community service? I mean, is there a particular career path that they need to be on? What are you looking for when you're trying to identify the students?
Yes, there's filters, there's criteria. Typically, INROADS is looking for young, sharp individuals willing to learn with a broad aspect to what their career is, or even the specialized one as well. But the most fundamental criteria is that you 4-year school, that you have U.S. citizenship, that you have at least a 2.8 nationally, and locally here in New England a 3.0 grade point average, that you fit the corporate image and the business image. The other criteria are just small ones pertaining to whatever field of study that you may that you may be studying. For example, there's a stipulation for if you want to be a certified public accountant, you have to have so many credits, and it's really stipulated by the actual opportunity itself. But those are really the basic ones.
Tell me about the companies that you're engaged with. Give me a couple of names, if you can, of the companies, and how do you actually secure those companies to be involved with the INROADS program?
That's a great question. The companies that we have been dealing with, especially the bigger ones, have been on our partnership portfolio for quite some time. And when we're talking about companies like Target Corporation, MetLife, Liberty Mutual, the public Big 4 accounting firms, United Technologies, which is our largest local partner and largest national partner. With, you know, huge companies, and then we have some smaller ones as well. And those partnerships were really born out of the want to diversify and forecast their workforce, but because it was also the right thing to do at the time. You know, INROADS is a 41-year-old organization. So we have cachet in the industry, and these companies realize that, and we wouldn't be here without them. So
So the companies themselves, I mean, clearly they've got intelligent, young, energetic, vivacious kids that are going to come to internship for them. Now, in the open, I mentioned, I believe it was 1 or 2 or 3 consecutive years. Talk to me about that continuum. How many summers or years do they work with them? And then does that necessarily lead to a job after they've graduated from school?
Well, we ask that each candidate be open to and available for at least 2 summers of an internship consecutively. It's not an experiment. It's not a meat market. I'm gonna taste this industry and then I'm gonna jump to the next. Obviously, that doesn't always work out that way. There are some cases where the student has been placed incorrectly because of maybe they changed their major or something like that. But each internship, based on our partnership agreement with our sponsoring companies, are assumptive into full-time work. These companies want to make an investment in these young people early because there's a distinct cost-effective advantage to that, and because it makes more sense. The students work there longer, they do better, they advance higher, and the loyalty is there. And then most importantly is the company gets day one return on that investment as soon as they start. Yeah, which is very important.
I like the way that sounds. Day one.
Yes.
You said the company's 41 years old.
Yes.
Give me a little bit about the history. How was INROADS put together? Who established the company and why? I mean, clearly now, 41 years later, we can see the benefits of it. But 41 years ago, was it the same sort of initiative that compelled this individual or group of people to come together to make this happen?
Well, everything evolves. INROADS was conceived at the 1963 March on Washington. Our founder, Frank C. Carr, was a spectator in the audience, and he left like so many Americans at that time with a higher sense of social responsibility. I could imagine, just took a long, hard look in the mirror with that new inspiration for social responsibility and looked within himself to say, what can I do to make a change? We know our country's history at that time was very tumultuous with the civil rights movement. So he took his sphere of influence within the industry as an executive at a public accounting firm and said, hey, I want to do something different. He pulled on his network and he started INROADS with 25 interns and 17 corporate sponsors. And then it's what you see today, 41 years later, 40 offices, 12 regions in the country, 2 offices international, 24,000 graduated alums through the undergraduate INROADS process and continuing on as alums. And just last summer, we were very close to 2,000 interns employed last summer throughout the whole enterprise.
That's significant.
Yes.
That is significant. Did you go through the INROADS program
I did not.
yourself? Okay.
I wish I did. I wish I had.
How did you come to be involved with the company?
Well, that's a great question. My brother, my younger brother, he's 2 years younger than me, was an INROADS alum. And I was working with the government at the time, doing something very, very different. And I was thinking of making a change to really exhaust my passion for civic engagement and developing young people, which is what I was doing in my spare time and on the job anyway. He emailed me a job description that he received through his network. And he said, Jamoul, man, this has got you written all over it. So when I read the job description, I realized that I could actually economize my corporate training and my academic life from college and what I was studying, and marry that with my passion to help young people in one position and get paid for it. So that's how I got started.
The all important get paid for.
Yes.
Listen, well, let me ask you this then. You're in New England.
Yes.
We've got all of these great institutions of higher learning here in New England. This must be a feast for you when you talk about looking for kids that really have come to school to really make something out of themselves, to really move up that ladder. Tell me about the schools that you're engaged with. I know you've got a big project coming up on the 24th, I believe, of October with the University of Massachusetts in Boston. Let's start with that school and then branch out and tell me about that network of schools that you work with.
Well, the University of Massachusetts, Boston particularly, represents a school that has had a spike in enrollment because of the economic downturn in 2008. So more students are going to school there and finding the opportunities at a school that didn't necessarily have the enrollment, 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even 3 years ago. we like to be on that campus. We actually like to be on all campuses that we could find that top-notch talent. But UMass Boston, being a state school, opened its arms to us, and we've always placed top-notch INROADS interns from that institution. Now, on Monday, because they have such a progressive, down-to-earth chancellor in Dr. Keith Motley, he has actually opened the doors through the Career Services Department to have us have a panel discussion talking about leading tomorrow today. That's the theme. Why you should start your career early while you're in school. A lot of college students come to school to go to school, and they don't realize until that all-important junior year and senior year that, hey, maybe I need to start looking for a career or where I'm going to start my career. But INROADS, I mean, we want you to start that career as soon as you step foot on that campus. Right. And Chancellor Motley believes in that, and he opened his doors. And then it's a perfect and a strategic place for us to be because it's a state school. Enrollment is high, and it's in, you know, the college mecca of the United States in Boston, Massachusetts. So that's a key school.
Now, I understand that you also partnered with one of the fraternal organizations, the Iota Phi Thetas.
Yes.
Talk to me about the richness of INROADS and the Iotas coming together to basically realize aims of not only your organization, but of that fraternity, insofar as not only being community active, but helping kids, actually all people, as you mentioned, but in this scenario, helping youngsters move up that ladder.
Yeah, the Iotas and INROADS have very, very similar missions. And there was a very easy parallel to create a partnership with them. And out of the partnership, we wanted to gain a real force behind getting young people access to the corporate environment. Right. And the Iotas particularly, just through wanting to provide those opportunities to its fraternity brothers, realized that there was a bigger picture there with their community service component to help INROADS not only with their own constituency, but young people all over the place, especially when we think about the INROADS footprint is everywhere that the Iota footprint is. So the partnership is just really natural, and it's a great one. The first of its kind, really.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
And how did that come together? Well,
we have an INROADS staff member in Minnesota. His name is Dwayne Diggs, who is an Iota brother.
Okay.
Wanted to get the INROADS URL link put on the Iota webpage. He brought that across to our CEO, Forrest T. Harper, and it spawned a partnership and a memorandum of understanding that really came together during the Iotas conclave here in Boston last summer. Okay. So we just got at a table, brainstormed, put some things together, and then we came up with the idea that, hey, we can really partner. They sponsored our annual awards reception during their conclave. And then we hosted some development workshops for them, and now we're going to do the panel presentation as a kind of a kickoff event to kind of really get the partnership some exposure. Now
tell me about this. I know that you were on the UMass Boston campus back, I believe it was October 5th.
Yes.
I know you worked with one of the Iota brothers, Lewis Harris.
Yes.
And he introduced you to a couple of other young Iota brothers. Talk to me about what happened on the 5th when you guys were at the school. What was that day all about? Well,
it was a career fair specifically for the accounting and finance majors, which is a huge pocket of opportunities with internships that INROADS holds, especially in the Boston and New England region at large. So what Lewis organized with some of the undergraduate brothers that went to UMass Boston, and one young man came from Northeastern. They came over and really passed out flyers and got the word out that I was on campus. The turnout to the event was great, but their exposure on campus with their Iota regalia really gave us more credibility, and I must have talked to about 200-300 students one-on-one. So that right there is just a real quick scenario of how the partnership has given dividends already, and we haven't even launched it yet.
So now, are you like a one-man band that basically goes throughout New England proper to talk to representatives at the different schools to basically do what you did at UMass at all of your stops? Is that how it works?
I wish I was a one-man band that could take all the credit, but I have a region of colleagues behind me My office is right here in Boston. I have two gentlemen that work with me, and then there's an office in Hartford and one in Stamford. So we kind of collectively come together and fan out over the New England region within those three markets to really get the INROADS mission accomplished within our region. And we're looking at this partnership and putting together a template of how we can make that happen in not only the other New England markets, but across the country as well.
Unfortunately, this past week, I was at a funeral service for a young man, and the pastor he gave a very impassioned service, and he talked about dreams, and he talked about the importance of dreams and having dreams and how that kind of compels one to move forward to attain those dreams and get done what needs to be done so that they can move their station in life up a little bit further and take care of their family and their community. I say that as a prelude to ask you this question. Talk to the folks in our audience. Clearly, there's a group of kids, like you say, that go to school for that education and to get better paying jobs. But there's a cadre of youngsters that do not go to school.
Right.
Okay, do not wrap their arms around that dream, you
Right.
know, for whatever reason. You know, they may have to have 2 or 3 jobs to help support their family or what have you.
Right.
Talk to them about the importance of a program like INROADS and what it will mean to them 5 years, 10 years, 15 years after they've gone through the program.
Well, that's a great question. And those dreams are really just the seeds of what you want to produce a reality with. But it just doesn't happen by saying it. The production of that reality is really an action that starts with that thought or that dream, hatched into an idea and then brought down into something tangible that you can attain. So what I would say to those young people that are struggling in those ways is to start early. Be really acquainted with who you are and what you want to do so that those dreams can be realized. And there's more than one way to realize them, and there's more than one person that have the same or similar dreams that once you start moving in the direction of that dream and producing it to become a reality, you'll start to latch on and attract people of like mind and like station in life, and then you can progress together. And that's what INROADS is. It's really a family. It's a network of individuals brought together through these opportunities to create that reality where a young person who may have had those 2 or 3 jobs to support their family can realize a dream and start a career and not just have 2 or 3 jobs, have a career, and then bring that into reality for themselves and then reach back and grab somebody else. And I think that's the heart of what INROADS does.
Well, then talk to me about like these tough economic times that we find ourselves in. When you go to other companies or to the kids, to the individuals and say, we want to put you two together, is there any pushback now and I'm sure that the companies probably pay some sort of freight to have these kids come in. I know they must pay them some sort of salary during
Yes.
the summer.
Yeah, they're paid internships.
Right,
Yeah.
paid internships,
Yes.
right. So when in tough economic times, does it make your job, does it make INROADS' job a little bit tougher, or does it actually make it a little bit easier because you are coming forth with quality candidates that can really service these institutions?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It is tougher in some aspects, and it's easier in some aspects. One of the ways it's easier is that in an economic environment like this, our partners are separated from our customers. And so those who continue to hang with us are truly our partners. And then when we present them candidates, we're presenting them the very best because we understand that this is hard economic times and we take what you do as an organization very serious. So the actual progression of the INROADS mission is still viable and very relevant in a tough economic environment because it's still cost effective to get the talent earlier, to train them, get them acclimated to the company culture, and then get that day one return on investment when they start as a full-time employee.
You appear to me to be a very insightful, astute ambassador for INROADS, but I've also heard some very laudatory things about your CEO.
Yes.
Tell us about your CEO.
Well, Forrest Harper, he'll be here on Monday. He is, in my estimation, a true visionary. He understands that we are a nonprofit organization, which our primary resource is to provide services. But he's bringing the corporate cachet with him to be able to create opportunities for our business partners and corporate sponsors, as well as our individual interns. And what he's brought to the table was really to get the INROADS relevancy and really the actual heartfelt, I would say, the way that we change people's lives, that exposure out there, because it's still relevant and it makes a difference in people's lives. And he really understands that. He's a progressive thinker. He follows through, and he wants to get everybody on the same page.
Now, with all that you said that INROADS does for companies and for individuals, you also do a National Service Day.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Well, our founder wanted it to be woven very tightly in the fabric of the INROADS mission, that we have a community service component. So every day, on the same day every summer, the whole enterprise gets together and does a collective community service effort in their community of some sort for the whole day. And that's staff and interns alike. And then we require that our interns, the enrollers, what I affectionately call them, to do hours during the year to give back. And the ironic thing is that most of the young men and women that become enrollers have already established themselves as those who give back in their community regularly. So it's not really it's not a hard sell, but it is an important aspect. This past summer we were at the Blackstone Community Center volunteering for Mayor Menino's pool party series. And that was just an excellent way for us to give back. But and then we also encourage all of our alum and our current interns to really kind of keep that door open. That is INROADS, that they walked through just recently for someone else to come right behind them.
We've only got a few moments left, Jamoul. So why don't we wrap this up by telling folks how you get in touch, how they can get in touch with you, how they can get more information about INROADS.
Well, the easiest way to get the information, Steve, is to go right onto the website, www.inroads.org. You can reach me here in Boston. Our office is on 114 State Street on the 4th floor. My phone number, or the number to the office, is 617-482-5202. And my email address is jceley@inroads.org. My office hours are always open. If I'm there, I'm open. Best way to get in contact with me personally is the email, but please go on the website. If you're a young person looking for an opportunity and you fit the criteria based on what you've heard and you like what you heard, just go ahead and apply, www.inroads.org.
Hey, Jamoul, it was great having you on the show. Really appreciate you coming through and talking to us and talking to our audience about all that you're doing out there. As I mentioned in the open, we're big on opportunities.
Yes.
And this sounds like an extraordinary opportunity. You know, so much success to you. Much luck to you. I know that you're going to have this big event over at UMass Boston on the 24th, that panel discussion. I think that's going to be a great thing. It sounds like a great idea.
Yep, it's 1 to 4, Ballroom A. Right
1 to 4, Ballroom A.
Right in the Student Center.
Awesome. My mother.
Thanks
a lot. Thanks for coming on. All right, folks, listen. You have to get in touch with INROADS. You have to really understand what it is that they do. Get not only yourselves involved, if you're of age, but get your younger brothers, sisters, older sisters, as with the case with Jamoul and his brother, you know, passing forward that resume. But get in touch with them because they're really doing some yeoman's work. And also keep your eye on what's going on down at UMass Boston because they're just an extraordinary institution of higher learning, as you know.